Hi, this is Jody Costello with Market Tools. I'm here today with Jolinda Decad, one of our research consultants. And we're here today to talk about survey design best practices. Specifically, within the next 10 minutes, we hope to give you some tips and tricks for not only engaging people to take your survey, but also keeping them engaged so that they complete it and you get the information that you need. So last time we talked, Jolinda, a little bit about how you get started, how you get the whole company on board and figure out how to go about designing your survey. But overall, what would you say you consider a well-designed survey?
We can look at a well-designed survey from the point of view of the client and the respondent. So from the client's point of view, we want to make sure that the survey is going to deliver the information that you need to meet your survey objectives. From the customer's point of view, we really want to make sure that that customer is engaged. We can get the customer into the survey and we could keep the customer engaged in finishing the survey. So we want to make sure that the survey looks very attractive, looks very professional, respects the respondent in terms of time and effort involved in completing the survey, and that it really follows a logical sequence.
Okay, so if you're talking about survey engagement, let's get specific and talk about email surveys, for example. So how would you design it to make sure that engagement is optimal? That, that one, people actually take the survey, and two, that they continue and actually finish it?
Sure. So when we're looking at the survey invitation, that's our chance to get the customer excited about coming in and clicking on the link into the survey. So we want to make sure that, first of all, it looks like it's coming from the sponsoring client. So there's no concern that this is spam or somebody else is trying to get their information inappropriately. So we want to make sure that as much as possible, it has the look and feel of the company. So we'd like to put the logo on the survey. We would like to have it signed by the CEO or the VP of support. So that not only are we showing that it's coming from top management, but we're showing that top management is engaged in the survey results and cares about it. And then when we look at the content of the survey invitation, we really want to make sure that it's conveying, what the purpose of the survey is, the commitment of the company to do something with the results, gives a real sense of what's in it for me to fill out this survey. And then it should do things like give an idea of, how much time is this going to take, and to be very realistic about it, to give whatever assurances you need as far as confidentiality and privacy. So those are some of the main areas that we look for when designing the survey invitation. And what I like to do is make sure when I'm working with my clients that it kind of expresses the tone or the personality of that client company.
That's a really
So
good point. So you want to make sure that, a survey for favorite ice cream is going to be a lot different than maybe the survey from your bank, for
right,
example.
the formality of it should really reflect the kind of business that you're
Sure.
in.
Sure. Okay, great. In terms of length, that you bring up a really good point that I know I've taken surveys where I get in and I think, okay, this will take me 5 minutes. Then after a while, I start thinking, geez, how long is this thing going to take? So what do you recommend as far as length? Does it vary by type of company or industry, or is there kind of a standard best practice?
I think it really is a matter of what kind of survey it is. Is it a transactional survey that came after a service event? In that case, it really should be about 5 minutes.
Okay.
But if it's setting that expectation that we're looking at your perception of our company as a whole, for the total customer experience from, let's say, becoming aware and buying and ordering from us, throughout the product or the service life cycle into, ongoing relationships, then you can pretty much get away with a survey that's more 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And what I find is that the closest the customer or the partner is in relying on you for their business success, probably the more committed they are to really taking the time. So if you're an affiliate or you're a partner and you really depend on this client organization,
Right.
because this is your chance to really give, feedback on how they can help you be successful, you could probably get about 30 minutes of their time.
Okay. As opposed to, say, somebody who only works with this company maybe every 3 to 6 months, they're not going to want to take that same level of time as if it's in part of your day-to-day job.
Right, or going back to, gee, I made a service call and I'm not going to spend 15, 20 minutes going into great detail about what that service call was about.
Sure. Okay, this is great information. So, just for our audience to give them a very specific tip, let's say you wanted to ask 30 questions, for example. How would you design that so that it didn't feel so much like 30 questions, or that the survey kept people engaged?
hmm So I think one of the ways we would do that was through the appearance of the survey. When possible, we would try to put things into rating grids, tables, or two columns. So we have appropriate white space around it, but they're seeing something in a very structured form. And maybe if we keep that structure, they go, oh, okay, so now they're asking me a set of questions about ordering. Now they're asking me a set of questions about product attributes, but I'm seeing the same kind of structure as I go along. I'm seeing some individual attributes related to, let's say, that touch point. I'm seeing an overall satisfaction question about that particular touch point, and then I'm being asked an open-ended questions. Boom, that's done. Now
Okay.
I'm going on to something else. And also, probably at the beginning of the survey, you've mentioned these are the topics that I'm going to handle. And you have what we call a status bar. So if you go to page 2 or page 3 of the survey and it says something like, oh, 60% complete, you go, okay, there's an end in sight. And it's been so logically ordered for you that, you say, oh, okay, so I'm getting kind of at this point in the survey, and then they're going to ask me some overall satisfaction and loyalty questions, and then I'm done.
Okay, so just to recap, you're saying basically give them a structure, make sure that it's logical and repetitive so people can see this is the way the questions are going to be laid out, and then provide a status bar with a percent complete so that people know how far in they are. Do you also let people know up front the survey should take X amount of minutes or there's X amount of questions?
Yeah, so in the survey invitation, I
Mm-hmm.
would let them know that it's, let's say, 15 minutes, and then probably repeat it in the survey introduction.
Okay.
And the survey introduction is almost a recap of what's in the survey invitation, thanking them for participating in the survey, probably telling them the amount of time it will take. And as I said, here are the list of topics that we'll talk about. And that would vary. So when we talked about a transactional survey, like a service support survey, that would be very brief,
Right.
about 20 words, because, if you're saying this is a short survey, you're not going to have a long survey introduction. It's going to be
Right.
very sweet and to the point. Whereas a relationship survey is basically, I want you to take a goodly portion of time. This is very important for
Mm-hmm.
us to get your viewpoints about this. And probably that survey introduction can be longer because you really want to draw them in to a serious engagement of, looking at the total customer experience,
Right.
particularly if you're talking to decision makers and influencers.
Right. So setting expectations is really what it's about so that people have a sense of what they're signing up for. And really, if you've got, say, 5 minutes at your desk, you might do a transactional survey. Or on the flip side, if you've got only 5 minutes and you have a sense of this is a survey that's going to take a lot of my time and I really need to think it through, you're not going to bother starting it yet until you've got the concentrated amount of time to focus.
I'm glad you said that because I think that's a really good point that if you thought a relationship survey would take you just 5 minutes and you only carved out 5 minutes, then
Right.
you'll abandon after that 5 minutes because, you can't spend any longer on it.
Sure.
So that's a really good point.
So we figured out, how to design a great survey. We've got it, we've got an ideal invitation. We've got something that's engaging. How often can you survey someone without them getting kind of fatigued and burned out on constantly answering your questions?
Sure. Again, why don't we differentiate between relationship surveys and transactional surveys? So, for relationship surveys, most clients determine that they really want to touch a particular customer once a year.
Okay.
So they will either run their survey annually, or they might split their sample. Um, we have some clients that have tens of thousands of customers. And actually, what we do is we split their total installed base into, let's say, fourths or halves. And so they can run a quarterly relationship survey, let's say, but they're only going to be touching a quarter of their installed base. So this is really crucial for
Sure.
a customer who, is in a very fast changing industry, is making a lot of changes, and they just cannot go out once a year. They have to really go out on a much more frequent basis. When we're talking about transactional surveys, if let's say I'm a customer who's always calling into the call center or having field repair, I would probably be a little fatigued if I got a survey more than once a month or once a quarter. On the other hand, if let's say I was a person who was in charge of large implementations and I did do them every month or every couple of months, I would start to wonder if sometimes why I got a survey and why sometimes I didn't. And
Sure.
might think, oh, I'm getting invited to take this survey because the implementation went well. And I didn't get an invitation when it didn't go well. So in those kinds of cases where it's a very important kind of transaction that took place,
Sure.
like an implementation, I might want to survey that customer each and every time, and it's up to them to determine, how often they want to respond.
Okay, so you typically work directly with MarketTools customers to understand their business, to help define the touch rules so that you're preventing fatigue, but at the same time maximizing the amount of good quality data that you're getting.
Exactly.
Thanks so much, Jolinda. We really appreciate the tips. And thanks to all of our listeners out there for tuning in. Again, I'm Jody Koskela. And for more information, visit markettools.com. And for more tips and tricks, be sure to subscribe to our blog.